Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel where today we are going to do my very first mid-month wrap-up. So I'm going to talk about everything that I read in the first 2 weeks of January, starting with Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas, the first book in the Throne of Glass series. This is a young adult fantasy series, and we are following our main character of Selena, who used to be the most famous assassin until she was caught and sent to the salt mines. Enter in the Crown Prince, who comes to her and offers her a deal. Come to the capital, be his champion for this competition to become the next royal assassin, and she only has to be the royal assassin for a couple years and then she has her freedom. So Selena takes him up on this offer and the competition starts, and then some of her competitors start turning up dead, and the story goes from there. And you guys, I really liked this. I mean, like, the plot was fine. It wasn't anything super unique, but it really wasn't super formulaic, I thought, either. Like, you could see some stuff coming, but some of it was you couldn't, and it was interesting. The world building was not super fleshed out, but it was good enough for the first book. It set up some really interesting things for the second book. The characters were a little bit cardboard cutouty. Some of them, I will give you that. Like the Crown Prince, I just kind of was like, yeah, he's doing his thing again, and he never seemed to expand beyond the stereotype that he was put into. Selena, I can't decide if she is well developed or not, because the thing is, like, she's got a lot of layers because she has very distinct periods in her life, and then something happens that completely changes the direction of her life. And so we see, like, after the salt mines, she's trying basically to put herself back together, and like various bits of her past keep pushing its way through, and we get to see those jagged edges, and it's very, very interesting. And I'm not entirely certain that that is what Sarah J. Maas meant to do. Like, I don't know if I'm seeing depth where there was never intended to be depth, but I do like it, even as I don't really like Selena as a character. She's not really my kind of character. Um, but I can appreciate the depth and where she's coming from and why she's like so angry, for example. And I can't decide if her arrogance is just an act or not. I don't know. I'm really intrigued. I will say that. So now that I know I just kind of trashed this and said everything was just fine, nothing amazing. So why did I enjoy this so much? And the thing is, this really reminds me of a romance or a superhero novel, because those are superhero graphic novel, because those really, they offer the reader a promise. And the promise is, if you can suspend disbelief this far, I promise a good time. And that's what this did. I know that a lot of people have problems with Selena, that she's like overpowered, that she's not realistic. But if you can suspend disbelief that far, it's a good time. And I had a good time reading this, even as kind of unbelievable as it was. It didn't bother me too much because I did put it in that category of like, okay, this is one of those things where I just have to suspend disbelief. And then I was fine, and I really enjoyed it. I ended up giving this 4 stars, and it's definitely actually going to go directly onto my I love these shelves. I love these books shelves that I have. And even if I hate the rest of the series, I'm still going to keep this one book. So after that, I have read The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin, and this is an adult urban fantasy novel. And the whole premise is just that cities have the ability to become alive. They have to meet certain conditions, but once those conditions are met, the city chooses an avatar. It goes through this birthing process, and then afterwards, it's alive. Now, New York City, of course, complicates things. And instead of just having one avatar or embodiment of the city, it has 6. One for each of the 5 boroughs, and then one for the city at large. And they have to come together, and they have to do it quickly, because there is an ancient evil that is only able to attack these great cities when they are being born. And so they have to find each other before the ancient evil kills them all, and in doing so kills the city. So I already have a full length review for this. I will link it down below. And of course, I will keep this relatively short, but I really enjoyed this. It is a slower, atmospheric kind of read, but N.K. Jemisin really takes the time to build up the city in a really interesting way. It's great for somebody who's never been to New York City, and like each of the boroughs are given a very distinct kind of voice, and each character who represents each borough was very distinct, and it was just really enjoyable. The magic system I found to be really interesting. All the fantastical elements about, around this ancient evil and like how a city becomes alive, I thought was also very interesting, to the point where I'd read a book where we follow another city being born. Um, Especially London, because we find out London's was interesting as well. And then like, and everything else was fine. Like, it wasn't. I don't think anything was else. The world building is really what stood out in this book, and that is what made me enjoy it so much. And I ended up giving this 4.25 to 4.5 stars, somewhere in there. After that, I read Defiance by CJ Redwine. And this is the first book in a young adult fantasy series. And we are following our main character of Rachel. And Rachel is the daughter of a courier. And her dad, the courier, did not come home. So he is declared dead. And she is assigned a new protector. And that protector happens to be her dad's apprentice, whom she has a history with. And she immediately decides that because she thinks that her dad is not actually dead and is just outside the city walls where it is dangerous, she is going to jump the city walls and go find him. And that puts both her and her new protector into trouble. Now, I did accidentally say earlier that I read this. I did not read it. I DNF'd it. I DNF'd it at page 30 because I just could not with the writing. The writing and I did, like, it did not work for me at all. I thought the main character was just kind of stupid. She was just like, the thing is, like, this is kind of a misogynistic society, and like, all the girls are raised to be meek and subservient, and Rachel was not. She was treated as an equal, which is fine, but she was also never taught how to behave meek and subservient when the need arises. And the need arises, and she is just herself. And I'm just like, you are going to get everybody killed. That's what's going to happen. And then she's like, I'm going to jump the wall. I don't know what's beyond the wall, but I'm going to jump it, and I'm going to find my dad. It's like, okay, go get yourself killed. That's fine. So clearly I did not like the main character. I didn't like our other prospective character either, which was her protector. I just didn't like anybody. I didn't like the writing. I skimmed the last 10 pages, and it doesn't do anything particularly unique that I can tell. Like, so I just decided to go ahead and DNF this. After that, I read Eragon by Christopher Paolini, and this is the first book in the Inheritance cycle. So this book follows our main character of Eragon, and Eragon is a farm boy, and he is out hunting one day and to trying to find enough meat to help them get through winter, and a blue stone appears, and he picks it up thinking maybe he can sell it to buy some meat, and it turns out it's a dragon egg, and he has been chosen to be a dragon rider. So, and the story goes from there. So this is the book that my older child picked out for this month. For those of you that don't know, my spouse and I do allow our older child to pick out one book. Now it's every other month. It used to be every month, but now it's every other month because he's choosing 500-page books now. And then we read them, and then we are able to discuss them as a family. I did this all last year, and it is continuing into this year with Eragon. And unfortunately, I did not love this book, which was sad. I probably would have DNF'd this. These are the only books that I absolutely will not DNF. But I probably would have if it had not been my older child's choice. So, but the thing is that Christopher Paolini was like a teenager when he wrote this book, and it is very evident in his style of writing. So it's, you guys, like, I took a picture of one of the paragraphs and sent it off to my sister-in-law, and she read it, and she is an 8th grade English teacher, and she sent back it reads like something my students would turn in. And that's really sums up my problem with the writing style in this book. And a lot of people can look past it, and I just struggle with that. It just wasn't fun to read, especially the first half of the book when we were doing a lot of world building and like description, because it was so info dumpy. And there was a lot of stuff given for a description, and it was the kind of stuff where it doesn't actually help you build a picture in your mind very easily. And also, a lot of it doesn't actually matter. And so it was too much. But apart from all of the writing style and just like the technicalities of it, honestly, it's just not that unique, right? It's not bad, but it's not anything that's going to stick in my head either. And so because it wasn't anything that was drawing me in, I really did end up struggling with this book because it was nothing that was drawing me in, but a whole lot of bad writing. So, unfortunately, I ended up giving this book 2.75 stars, and unless the rest of the book series turns out amazing, I will probably never reread this. And then lastly, I read 2 volumes of the manga series Library Wars, Love and War. The manga part of it is by Kiiro Yumi, and then they are based on these novels by Hiro Arikawa. And essentially, this is alternate history. I don't know for present day or in the future or something, but essentially, there was a law that was passed in Japan, and it created the Media Betterment Committee, which essentially wants to censor all books that it determines is not suitable to be read, which is a very slippery slope. We'll enter in the library, and the libraries decide to come together to form the library forces, which is made up of the librarians on one hand and the defense forces on the other, which is like legit a militia. And enter our so and that's because the Media Betterment Committee is trying to run raids on the library and all this kind of stuff. They're at war about books. Enter our main character of Kasahara, and she is going training to be part of the library defense forces. And we follow her through her training in her first book, the normal training, and then elite training in the second book. And this series is so ridiculous. And it's a reread. Okay, here's the thing. I was craving something that I knew was going to make me happy. Between Eragon and the DNF and everything happening in the US, I wanted something that I knew would make me happy, so I put these on hold at my library. I got them both from my library. And I just really enjoy this series. It's so over the top and ridiculous, especially because Kasahara and her primary instructor, Dojo, like they clearly admire each other. They clearly respect each other. They also very clearly do not know how to interact with each other. And so they are always at each other's throats. And it's just hilarious. It's over the top and ridiculous. And it balances that in a way that works really well for me, so that I just enjoy it instead of getting annoyed at them all the time. And part of that is because they clearly also have the hots for each other, so you're just like, you guys need to figure it out. And the funny part, and I think the part that really makes it balanced for me, is that the people around them actually are kind of just like, oh, they're at it again? I wonder why. And it's just really kind of funny. The storylines on this are not that amazing. It's really taking its time to set up this world so that we understand what's going on. But I do know that later on, we do tackle some really interesting storylines around censorship. And I really like these books. I gave them 3.5 stars. They're not quality, but I really enjoy reading them. But that is it, you guys. Those are all the things that I read or DNF'd in the first 2 weeks of January. Comment down below if you have read any of these and you want to discuss them, or let me know what you read in the first 2 weeks of January. But that is all I have. So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And until next time, have happy reading, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!